5 books and counting. The Tales from the Omni Vault continues to expand as a universe. Go ahead and check the links down in the description to get your copies today. Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am the Omni Viewer, and a second trailer for Ultraman Rising just dropped. Ultraman Rising, of course, is one of the recent adaptations of Ultraman that's going to originate from America as opposed to Japan. And this one is original to Netflix. So I did a video about the first trailer back when that dropped, and I had some pretty strong feelings about it. None of them positive. I did not think it looked like it was going to be a good movie. I, in fact, thought it looked like it was going to be pretty bad. This trailer... well, this trailer is better, but I'm still not entirely convinced. It shows more of what this movie's gonna be like, and I can recognize a bit more of the classic Ultraman in there. There are also things in there that make the main plot of the hero, Ken, having to raise a baby monster because she imprinted on him when she hatched slightly more palatable. But at the same time, it feels like something's just missing. All that stuff I described about it looking like Ultraman, that's just it. It looks like Ultraman. It's got the aesthetic. Even that particular plot it's got doesn't necessarily sound like it would be out of place for the series. I have seen episodes of classic Ultras where something similar has occurred. But there's just something about it that doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like proper Ultraman. And that, I think, is what's getting to me. In particular, it feels, I've kind of started questioning using the term Marvelization because, saying something is bad because it's Marvelized feels like it's ignoring the fact that the Marvel Cinematic Universe basically dominated the pop culture landscape for over a decade, and did so because it actually was good. And the downfall of Marvel was mostly due to recent endeavors getting away from all the stuff that made those first movies good. But, I do think there maybe is something to the idea that when people try to imitate Marvel, because something popular always gets imitated, they always do it in all the wrong ways. They imitate the stuff that shouldn't be imitated, or they don't get why they're doing the same thing in the first place. You know that quote, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery? I recently learned there's actually more to it than just that. The full quote is, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery that mediocrity can pay to greatness. This is why so many things that have tried imitating Marvel haven't worked, because they were just trying to imitate it without trying to do their own thing, and they really didn't have that much to begin with in the first place. I worry that Ultraman Rising is going in that same direction, because there's a lot of stuff in there that if you were to switch it out with a different Marvel character, it would feel like it was an MCU movie. I still say that this version of Ultraman sounds like Paul Rudd. I know it's not Paul Rudd, but it sounds so much like him, I cannot get that out of my mind. Paul Rudd, of course, is one of the major MCU heroes at this point, a character who wasn't even that major of a hero in the comics. And the action and the tone, the quippy, bantery nature of it all, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like what classic Ultra is like. I mean, not for the most part. Yes, I have to address that there were some Ultra series, especially in recent years, that were basically just toy commercials, because Bandai made new toys and it was the new Ultra Heroes' job to sell those toys in their show. That's the way it was for a few years at least, which is actually why Ultraman Blazar made such a big splash, because it did away with that. Were there still a few times when certain toyetic things snuck their way in? Sure. Most of the time it was organic, 1 or 2 times it wasn't, but for the most part, it didn't bother with that stuff. It just said, hey, you know what? All we need to do is tell a good story. The merchandise will take care of itself. Don't worry about that. And it worked. Ultraman Blazar is considered a great series. I mean, I like it, certainly. I've got the stuff right here. I wouldn't be displaying that if I didn't like it. But Ultraman Rising, it feels like it's not necessarily trying to be toyetic, more like it's trying to be an American kids movie. And you know what I mean when I say American kids movie. I mean the kind of movie that is made specifically for kids, like an Illumination property, let's say. Illumination seems to be the go-to thing where, I mean, everyone seems to forget that the first Despicable Me actually was really good because they were doing something brand new with it. But I mean, once that was popular, then it just became a product to them. There's another one of those coming out apparently, and the trailer just did nothing for me at all. But that's the thing about the Illumination stuff. Their movies are just baseline. They're not trying to be risky. They're not doing anything that makes them especially bad. So they just sort of are middle of the road, and as a result, they're kind of forgettable. And Ultraman Rising looks like it's kind of going in that direction. I mean, I keep thinking about that one C.S. Lewis quote, at least I'm pretty sure it's C.S. Lewis, where he said, a children's story that can only be enjoyed by children isn't much of a story. And I think he was right. History has proven him out. Some of the best pieces of entertainment that we all feel nostalgia for are things that we can enjoy just as much as an adult as we did when we were kids, because they weren't just made for kids. Yes, we were the primary audience in theory, but they were also designed to be enjoyed by everyone. They were concerned with telling good quality stories. And sometimes you can go back and get something completely different out of them. Or sometimes you can just go back and think, you know what? It's not that deep, but when I have kids, I want them to watch something like this one day. Based on what I'm seeing right now, I do not get the sense that Ultraman Rising is going to follow that particular idea. I could be wrong. The trailers could just be underselling the movie. That is always possible. But the trailers are all I have to go on at this point. Well, okay, there is one other thing. I did recently learn that apparently this project started off as something original. Something that was still kind of inspired by the Ultra series, but it was otherwise more of an homage, kind of like how my book Operation Red Dragon or Occult Mafia, they are homages to classic kaiju and horror movies, but they are, for all intents and purposes, original works, as opposed to adaptations or fan fictions or something. And I've been wondering, would I still feel this strongly about it if it had stayed that original project? If I had to guess, the primary reason it's not that original project is because nobody in mainstream entertainment likes original projects anymore and will only greenlight something if it's a franchise property. But thinking about it, if it were exactly the same, if we had these exact same trailers to go on, but they didn't feature Ultraman, they featured Ultraman-inspired hero. I mean, maybe I wouldn't have the argument of it doesn't feel like Ultraman to go on, but I'd still probably be looking at it and thinking, this doesn't feel like it's going to be that good. And like I said, I hope I'm wrong. I don't necessarily want this thing to be bad. But who knows? I'm just not feeling it right now. Maybe it'll surprise me. I don't know. I mean, Netflix, when it comes to animation, it's a roll of the dice. And by that I mean it truly does appear to be random. Sometimes it lands just the way you want it to, and sometimes it's a disaster. In fact, most of the time it's going to be a disaster. But I don't know. We'll see what happens when it finally lands. But for now, I'm still not entirely sure about it. But then again, those are just my thoughts, and I'm sure you've got your thoughts on it as well if you've seen the trailer. So go ahead and tell me what you think. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni Viewer signing off. Thank you all for watching. Now be sure to head down to the description to check us out on other platforms, as well as find links to the 5 current books in the Tales from the Omni Vault universe. Again, thank you all, and we'll see you next time.